Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. I am so thrilled that we have a surprise guest, and I was told that you're not going to tell you who this guy is, but doing this podcast for 19 years, with the longest running community podcast in the country. Matter of fact, it wasn't called podcast when we started. It was internet radio, and this is the gentleman across from me that started it all, got me involved in this, and probably to everyone else's detriment. You can blame him on this one. And that is Chris Jennewein. Chris is the editor and general manager of Times of San Diego, was a publisher. But I got to know Chris when he was hired by the San Diego Union-Tribune to be our executive in charge of our internet operations. At the time, I was in charge of community and public relations and was the spokesperson. And this changed a lot of people at the Union-Tribune. Chris came from just a storied career. He was a business editor out in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, and then went to one of the most innovative newspapers in the country, the San Jose Mercury News, and worked with the Merck Center. And when Chris got hired by the Union-Tribune in 2001, he hit the ground running, and the beneficiary was all of us. And Chris, I don't know how to even say this. I'm just so grateful for what you started, and we'll chat about that in a second. But first of all, maybe very quickly, your career in journalism.
Well, I'm sometimes surprised myself when I say I've been in media for 55 years.
Oh, my goodness.
Starting as a copy boy in Atlanta, working as a reporter and editor in Memphis and Atlanta.
Press Scimitar, right?
Well, actually, the
Commercial Appeal. Sorry, okay,
it was the morning newspaper.
There you go. Thank you.
Where my first job was covering the Arkansas suburbs of Memphis. So I'd drive across the Mississippi River on the one of the bridges every morning, and drive back in the afternoon, and it was a long way away from my college experience on the East Coast to be working in the Mississippi Delta region.
Right, I went to school at Ole Miss for a year, as you may remember, doing some graduate work there in journalism. And then when did you get to San Jose?
Well, I did 13 years in Atlanta, and that's where I got the online innovation.
Was it AJC? Where did you work, AJC?
Atlanta Journal and Constitution.
Okay, right.
Originally the Constitution, and then both. And in 1988, we got involved in an early online startup in partnership with Bell South, one of the old regional Bell companies that no longer exists. And I built that into something called Access Atlanta, which still exists, first real online service at a newspaper, and then got recruited by the Mercury News in Silicon Valley to do the same thing, but to do it with an interesting startup called America Online.
Yeah, you'd be embarrassed to know that I still have a UCLA Drew at AOL.com. It works, for God's sake. I still have some Gmail in this. Chris, then you came into the Union-Tribune in 2001 to run our internet operations.
I had been at with Knight Ridder for 9 years. I put all of Knight Ridder's newspapers online. I think it was 26 of them at one point. And it was time for a different kind of challenge, not a nationwide building a network, but focusing on a community. I wanted to see what you could build with an online news operation in a community that brought the community together, that created a path forward for newspapers. And you were one of the first people I met when I joined. And I knew instantly, you knew everyone in the community, you knew where the levers of community and political power were. And, I learned from you and then reached out to that same community.
Well, I appreciate that. Listen, it was an easy lift for us. We were all so excited in the Community and Public Relations division that you were coming here, that you embraced it to the nth degree. It's in your DNA for 75 different reasons. And the website was called Sign On San Diego, and at the time it's since changed. But you had this brilliant idea working with your content manager or director, Ron James, and others to start an internet radio station called Sign On Radio, October 15th, 2007. I talk about it all the time. It's exactly when it started. What was the impetus for doing that?
Well, I've always been an innovator. And
you have.
I like trying new ideas. Ron, in fact, kept saying, we ought to do something with radio. And I was walking through the newspaper production building one day and noticed some unused rooms, former offices. And I thought, maybe we could do something. And a colleague of mine who ran the facilities in the production building said, hey, I've got some money. I've got some materials that we didn't need for a project. And we just created it. I think it was $30,000. I didn't ask for permission. I brought the
smart.
I brought the head of the newspaper, the CEO, Gene Bell, down to see it, and he said, "This is amazing. Show everybody this." So I didn't have to get approval. I didn't get slapped for actually producing it. We created actually two radio stations. One was Sign On Radio, which Drew, of course, you began with. The other was Amplify SD.
Absolutely, Mark Palenke.
Yeah, it was local. It was local band music, 24/7. Now, October 15th was a good time to start it because, unfortunately, within, I guess it was about a month, we had that massive fire.
1 week.
1 week.
It was to the day.
And we instantly turned Sign On Radio into a way to get the news out. Now, Sign On San Diego itself was covering the news. We hit one day with 10 million people coming to the website. In fact, we had so much traffic that with my corporate credit card, I bought a new server off the back of a truck at midnight during the fire. But Sign On Radio added that human dimension. You were on, Ron was on, we were talking with the community. We had it set up with, I think, a 25-line call-in board so people could call in and talk about what they were experiencing. And it helped define the Union-Tribune as a publication that was concerned about the community, wanted to let people know what was happening, wanted to keep them safe. And it helped establish you, Drew, as what became the new community podcast.
Well, I tell you what was great about this. And I tell the story all the time, and I'm glad we're recording this, so now I can have it for posterity. It's never going to go away. So people go, you didn't really get involved in this. Now there's some evidence that I did with the man who started it. We were all called in when the fires broke out. It was the fires that hit Scripps Ranch in 2003. Excuse me, not Rancho Bernardo and Poway in 2007. And as Chris just mentioned, it shut down everything. And we're getting calls from people, because we all came into the studio to handle all the calls. I was getting calls from Stockholm, from Sydney. It was so clear. First of all, I thought my friends were just messing around with me and said, hey, listen, this is an important thing. No, they were looking at the Sign On website, saw this new thing we're doing, Sign On Radio. You had the foresight to put this on the homepage with Listen Now and here were the folks doing it. And you listen, you absolutely hired iconic radio guys, and I'm still friends with one of them, Dave Mason, who was our station manager, and then we had Paul Menard, and Jack, Hudson, I'm losing the name there. You know who they are.
I'm losing the names too.
Yeah, exactly. And and they have since passed on. They actually went into the Hall of Fame and so forth. And then you had Clark Anthony and Ken Copper and Happy Hair, if I'm not mistaken, to do this, and we all filled in. What a brilliant opportunity. And we just, kept on doing this, and I know I was involved with it for a while. We had some different iterations. We went to WS Radio, and they continue it now, Cloudcast Media. But it was called Internet Radio at the time. It wasn't podcast, correct?
That's correct. The Apple iPod was still relatively new. Podcasting seemed to take off by about 2010, and so if you were already doing internet radio and already were using the technology, it was a great next step. And it's really created an entirely new part of media. And what's happening here with Cloudcast is an example of turning that into a local medium, not just a niche, specialty, national medium, but a true local medium.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. It's been great, I know. And the beauty of working with you and with Ron, you just gave us carte blanche. So we started it was called Community Spotlight at the time in 2007. And then I said, hey, do you mind if I do a military show? And you go, well, go for it. So we started working with the San Diego Military Advisory Council, and we called it Supporting Your San Diego Military with SD-MAC. And thanks to my business partner, Charles Parisi, the founder and CEO of Cloudcast Media, we're relaunching it. And so now it's going to be called Mission San Diego Military. We also started something that you gave us the okay to do called, Prep Sports Tuesday. So I worked with the sports guys, and then we did high school sports. And it really resonated in the community, and I really applaud you for that, Chris. And now look where podcasting has taken off. Did you do a podcast with Times of San Diego? Was there a podcast?
No, we didn't do a podcast. It was pretty straight. It has been pretty straight. Local reporting with a little bit of state news mixed in. However, we are growing. We were acquired by Newswell, which is a nonprofit associated with Arizona State University, and we're going to be moving more into the social media space over the coming months. But I want to go back to something you said about you'd come to me and say, "Here's an idea." I'd say, "Try it." That's really been my management style throughout my career. Is let people try things. Congratulate them when it works. If it doesn't work, thank them for trying. But if you don't do that, you don't get significant new ideas.
Well, and I think, it was ripe for it. I remember, some of the thinking behind starting Sign On Radio, and you said was giving a voice to our journalists, of course, or some of the folks like me that worked in the business side, where, listen, the radio stations and the TV stations all, had, their stars, so to speak, the newscasters and all that business. But now we did. We had the George Vargas, we had the Bob Kittles, we had the so forth on this, the sports guys. Now we gave a voice to them, and it was a beautiful thing that you did, and I've been a beneficiary of it because I've been doing it now for 19 years, and we did some research on this just to say, can we really say we're the longest running community podcast in the nation, and we are. So, and you just walked into the studio here is Doug Wright. Doug is the president and CEO of Mission Fed Credit Union, and I'm going to invite Doug to sit right down over here and meet how this all started. I don't think he's met you before. Chris Jennewein is the one how it all started, Doug, and so it started in October 15th. of 2007. And Chris was our executive in charge of internet operations, and he launched Sign On Radio. Doug is the president and CEO of Mission Fed Credit Union, and we're grateful for Doug. I've been friends with Doug and colleagues for quite a while. They now sponsor the Spotlight Show. And Doug, if you want to blame someone, this is the person sitting to your right. Did this 19 years ago.
I would credit someone. It's been a great 19 years, and we've certainly enjoyed being a part of it for the last few years. And you provide great content and really valuable information for the community of San Diego. So congratulations to both of you for starting and continuing a really fantastic program.
Yeah, Chris, after he left the Union-Tribune, formed the Times of San Diego, one of the top news websites in our region, and now he's editor and general manager, of this. But Doug, I want to ask you this, but why is this spotlight on the community show important to Mission Fed?
Mission Fed is all about community. We've been around for about 65 years, serving our members and the community, and being really involved in the community. And the show really spotlights great things happening within the San Diego community, great organizations who are doing just incredible and amazing things to uplift San Diego, whether that's in education, whether that's in food insecurity, whether that's in arts, or any number of other activities that are really focused on how do we build and make a better San Diego for the people who live here and the people who are joining and coming to live here.
Yeah, Chris, you're all involved in the community. We were just chatting about when I first met Chris. He got hired in 2001, and we hit the ground running together, and he got immediately immersed in all the different community things. And Chris, you might not know this, but Doug, the show was initially called Spotlight on the Community, Community Spotlight. Now it's Spotlight on the Community. But one of our frequent guests was hired 22 years ago, maybe 23 years ago, I guess, was Neville Villamoria. Neville worked shoulder to shoulder with Doug, Senior VP of Marketing and Community Relations. Doug was on the show so much because we wanted to highlight what Mission Fed was doing in the community. And so we formed this in 2007. And so, Neville would be, on the show quite a bit, talking about what they're doing. And then we'd bring in a nonprofit that Mission Fed had benefited from that. And so, Neville, he's probably been on the show more than anybody. And then Doug became, he was the CFO, and he'd be on talking about mainly finance stuff that people would want to know are we heading into a recession, for God's sake? And now as a CEO route in this aspect of it, Chris, talk about, the relationships between businesses like Mission Fed and podcasting.
Well, Doug, I've got to applaud you for sponsoring this. One of the things that a podcast like this does is what an old-time newspaper used to do 50 years ago. And that's focus on what's happening on the community, at the community level, the things that people see every day, the things they really care about. Today our top story was the change in the number of hours that you'll be required to pay for a parking meter in San Diego. Mm. Now, that may not be earth-shaking news, but the community really cares about that. Right. That's the kind of thing that I think you're doing here with nonprofits. And I know Neville. I know how much he's focused on things, everything from the annual art show to many nonprofits out there. So you're taking your credit union is taking a very important role in the community by sponsoring this.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, but I think we're here to support and serve, and you have taken that and run with it and done amazing things in terms of.
Yeah, and we got even more things to do. When we started this off in 2007, we had programming actually every single day, Monday through Friday. It was live, 7 in the morning till 5 at night. Dave Mason, who Doug was sort of the station manager, and he did 7 to 9. We all had different slots on that. And I think what was so critical about it because of this, I got to run into my business partner and colleague, Charles Parisi. Charles has been working for quite a bit at the time on the board of Father Joe's Villages, and with his daughter, very, very passionate about homeless teens. And they started a concert for it called Songs for Shelter. And so he was talking to Jim Vargas, and Chris knows Jim Vargas. Jim, at the time, was our corporate VP of HR for all the Copley newspapers, not just San Diego, but all over the country. So Jim said, I should probably go on Drew Schlosberg's, show. And Charles goes, who the heck is Drew Schlosberg, like most people would say. And he came on the show several times. And the next thing you know, Charles, who's been an entrepreneur since age 25, says, you know what? I'm in the fourth quarter of my life. I'm stealing a line for him, which is great. I'm going to start up one of my businesses again. He's been doing this stuff and now, I don't know, 50, 60 shows later, we've been doing this, not just Spotlight. We got military show, we have a CEO show, we've got everything in between, because it's the way people are communicating these days. I think it's great. Chris, where do you see podcasting go from here forward? I mean, it's huge right now.
I think what you're doing here is a great model. I understand that the next stop, I think, is Atlanta in the rollout of this. I love the fact that it's Atlanta because I spent 13 years there in media at the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. Started, I think I mentioned earlier, Access Atlanta, which still exists. It's now the entertainment section of the newspaper's website. But it was a dial-up BBS, if anyone remembers that, back in 1989. But I think this is a great model, and I think it's a great model because people in the community can talk, and that's what people who are who care about their community, who are passionate about making changes, that's what they do best. They talk. Yes, they can write. Yes, they can do interviews, but to just talk is something really important and fundamental.
Well, and I think what we established early too, Chris, and thanks to you again, that hey, no holds barred. We're trying something new and give it a shot. These weren't 3-minute sound bites. My Spotlight show has been 27 minutes pretty much since it started in 2007. And you get to tell a story. It's all about storytelling in this aspect of it. And I think that there's some success in that aspect of it. Yeah, somebody do that. And I know, Doug, for you and for Mission Fed, you have so many stories to tell and what you folks are doing. Talk about how, the storytelling aspect is very critical, especially for Mission Fed and the people you support.
Yeah, I think, when you take a look at the different options that you have, certainly you can create interest and create a little bit of buzz with a 2-minute soundbite or an advertisement or whatever the case may be. But you can't really fully effectively tell stories, particularly stories around what I would call financial empowerment or building a successful life. That is a longer story. And so when you think about, building a story and talking about a story, you want to get into the full depth of what that means and how people's lives have been changed or how they've changed their lives or what they've learned and so on. And that's much more conducive to a longer podcast, a 27-minute podcast. Yeah. The other thing you have is kind of the ability to do back and forth dialogue.
That's right.
So typically on a 1 or 2 minute soundbite, if there's back and forth dialogue, it's like 5 sentences each way. And you just can't do a whole lot with that. It has great purpose. You can do things with it, but you can't have that deep back and forth dialogue.
Soundbites have really ruined a lot of traditional broadcast media for exactly that reason. People tune them out because they know it's largely prepared. It's 1 sentence or 2 sentences, and it doesn't go very deep. This is much deeper.
Yeah, and it's fun to do this. I'm learning as much. I've been doing this thing for 19 years. Thank you, Chris Jennewein, for starting this, and again, to the detriment of anyone who has to be on my show, I guess. But and you learn as much from the guest as you learn from anything else, and so forth. And that's been half the fun of doing this. And really credit to Mission Fed. They built a beautiful studio here with top-notch equipment and so forth. We know our guests that come in here love it. They love being in this environment. environment, and we're going to continue to do that moving forward. And, you know, the fact that I couldn't remember Charlie and Harrigan, I should be have my podcast license taken away, for God's sake. Paul Menard, of course, was one of the folks involved, the Hall of Fame, radio folks. And we're just excited. I think, you know, the sky's the limit for podcasting, as, you know, Charles has opened up Cloudcast Atlanta, Cloudcast Boston, and everything in between. One of the things I think we're really proud of, and Charles gets a lot of credit for this, and a lot of it has to do with his upbringing in New York. He grew up in the projects, is we have students run our shows. So there are students, some of them in high school, that are associate producers of the show, some of them that are in college. And every one of the show is run by a student. And then not only do we have them to run the shows and they learn the engineering behind it, they're also hosting the show. So I'm not sure how many we have now. Charles would know there's a number. It's got to be at least 15 to 20 of them that have done it periodically throughout. So now you've given them this aspect as well. So, Chris, I got to tell you something. Charles said there's going to be a surprise guest coming in. I'm not going to tell you who it is. And so I'm just thrilled. And that first of all, I enjoyed working with you for all the years you were at the UT.
And likewise. Yeah. I mean, you really cared about the community at a time when newspapers seemed a little bit like ivory towers. You really made it clear that no, it's the community. We got to focus on that.
Well, you gave us the platform to do that as well, and forever, grateful for Doug and certainly your leadership at Mission Fed Credit Union. Many years of leadership now as the CEO and letting us continue this platform. Doug in different areas, and we're excited to do that. And we hope you'll be with us for many years to come, Doug.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% behind it and excited to continue to support.
Very, very good. Chris Jennewein, it's an honor. This is not going to be the last time I'm going to have you on the show, because this time we'll set it up ahead of time. And Doug, thank you so much. And to our audience, I hope you enjoyed going into nostalgia with Drew Schlosberg. This is how it all started with Sign On Radio in 2007. And we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.